Hey there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of SCUM. This right here is the podcast where we dive into the deepest, darkest, murkiest waters with a plethora of legendary guests. I am, of course, your host, your bastard of ceremonies, the numero uno scumbag, Rex Ruger. That is Rex with 3 X's. You might also know me as AKA the King of Sleaze, AKA the Hair Metal High Priest, and most importantly, AKA Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. Take one look at father and son. Take one look. Undeniable that you're looking at the son of glam, the front man for the band. Just smoked a few grams. I got a million fans. I'm your ice cream man, Mr. Wop Bop Loo Bop Wop Bam Bam Shazam. Damn. Feeling good. Most importantly, everybody in the house looking good. That is, of course, made possible by you want your quaff to look like Roth, get you some industrial strength and light. This is, of course, the No Frills podcast. You don't get no frills because you get plenty of thrills, and that's looking at this face. Plus, I don't know how to give you no frills. Coming to you as always from the luscious lavender lounge of love, and joined as always by my bro, my friend, my head of security, my confidant, my occasional drug liaison, for lack of a better word, Keith Hernandez puppet right there. And of course, we've got ourselves another kick-ass fucking episode, one that I am very excited about, with a member of a band that I am very excited about. We will get to that, as I've just invited him. That's another reason why there's no frills, because you get to see behind the proverbial curtain, so to speak. Because can't give you no bells and whistles. I'm 50 years old. There's no time. No time to figure out technology. I've arrived to the party late. I'm an 80s kid. I does what I does, the best I can. I am what I am, in the great words of our American poet, Popeye the Sailor Man. So, let me send this link to my guest here, and we will chop it up with him on another episode of Pod Scum. And like I said, I am very excited about this one. And there he is, ringing my doorbell. So let's let him on in and chop it up with him. What do you say? We'll get him. We'll get him. We'll get him. We'll get him. He's in here, but we don't say. There he is. Look at that face. A real rock star. A real bona fide rock star.
I don't know if I would say that.
No, I was talking about me.
Oh, all right.
And the guy behind me. I mean,
really right.
If you want to take some cues from being a front man, you come to, I'm thinking of actually opening up a school for it myself, teaching all the subtle nuances of what it takes to be a real front man. Although Nick seems to have figured a lot of them out. He does a very good job.
He's okay.
And despite the fact that you told me that when I do eventually interview him, he's going to be pushing his rap agenda, I'm not so sure about that, but.
Well, we hope not.
Yeah. This is, of course, Tim Louie. I don't know. Do I call you Tim or do I call you the dreaded Chigger?
It's Chigger.
It's Chigger. Okay. And I don't want to say dreaded, but just I think when most people think of a Chigger, I think they think of something along the lines of some kind of an insect or tick of some kind.
I was very annoying when I was a kid, so
okay. That makes sense. From the great East Coast, it's nice when we can rave about East Coast bands. RAHWAY, named right after your own. What's RAHWAY? A city in New Jersey?
Yeah, it's a city in New Jersey. The brothers, the Cardenas brothers, grew up there.
Okay.
Funny story though. Steven Tyler from Aerosmith actually named the band.
Really? So, that's pretty. Oh yeah, I think I was reading something like that where you guys were previously Sun.
Yeah, they were Sun before. Yeah. They were working with a producer who was working with Aerosmith, and the producer said, "Hey, ask Steven Tyler to give a listen to their music," and Steven loved it. And he goes, "What's the name of the band?" He goes, "Sun." He goes, "That's a terrible name. It's a terrible name." He's like, "Where are they from?" He's like, "Rahway, New Jersey." He's like, "Why don't they just call the band Rahway?" And the name just stuck.
That's pretty high praise, even when Steven Tyler knows you enough and you're on his radar to run down your band name. Even I mean, that's
he should have signed us.
Now, when you joined the band, were they already Sun or because what was your opinion when you joined up with them and they're already Sun? Are you thinking in your head somewhere it's a lame band name, but you can't say anything about it?
No. Funny stories though that I used to write. I write for the Aquarian Weekly. It's a North Jersey newspaper, music newspaper. Right. And I used to write about Rahway all the time. They were already Rahway. I wrote about them when they were Sun.
Oh, okay.
They
Okay.
they were RAHWAY, and they had this guy Manny Cabo singing for them, who was
Okay.
on The Voice. And then we, Dave, the guitar player, and we just hit it off. The first time we ever met.
Yeah.
I went to one of their shows, and we just stayed in touch. My band, Smoke Star, at the time, would play shows with them. They would open for us.
Yeah.
RAHWAY opened for my band.
Nice.
And,
Nice.
but we always stayed in
rank.
touch. we always stayed in touch, and one day their bass player had to move to Florida, and he said, hey, listen, man, I really need you. Can you jump on board? I love the way you play. He's like, we have this Motley Crue feel to the band. He's like,
yeah.
You're my Nikki Sixx. And I'm like, I love Nikki Sixx.
Wow, yeah, me too. I'm actually going, and I'm an upstate New York guy, so they're going to be coming to the it's not the Carrier Dome no more out in Syracuse. They've renamed it because everything needs to be named after some kind of a tech company. So now it's the JMA Wireless Dome.
Yeah, right. That's right. Yep. And they're
Motley Crue and Def Leppard, and this time around, no Poison and no Joan Jett, but we get Alice Cooper.
You get Alice Cooper. That's right. Yep.
That's pretty cool. And from what I remember. And correct me if I'm wrong. I know I'm not wrong about you appearing on that metal show in the audience, but did you stump the trunk that day?
I did. Eddie's a good friend of mine. I'm really good friends with Eddie and Don and Jim. So I was actually there interviewing them right before the show.
Right.
And I had to make it like I didn't know them. So I was like, oh, it was nice to meet you guys. And then here's Don calling me by my nickname.
He did. Yeah.
And then but they gave me the question to ask them, and I actually stumped them. So
they fed you the question?
Yeah, they feed you the question. What they do is before the show starts, they ask everybody to write questions out, and they pick these questions. But they're like, hey, Chig, do you wanna ask Eddie a question? I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? And I did, and I stumped him. So,
and that's not an easy feat. He knows a lot of shit.
He knows a lot.
He's like an encyclopedia of like rock knowledge.
Yeah, he is. He really is.
Crazy.
The best conversations I've ever had about music was with Eddie, for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, you guys have played. I'm looking down this list here: Buck Cherry, Slash, 3 Days Grace, Godsmack, STP. You guys have played with some pretty big heavyweights.
Well, yeah, we played with them because we were part of these festivals. They were playing these festivals. We didn't. I mean, there was some like Buck Cherry. We directly opened for Monster Magnet, Skid Row, bands like that. But like we were part of these festivals where like Ghost played, Five Finger Death Punch, Shinedown, Anthrax. I mean, and we got to hang out with these guys too.
That's
so
cool.
To me, it was, I worked these festivals, but I also got a chance to perform at these festivals. Yeah, and so I got to perform along some of my idols, which was awesome. I mean, one of the shows we opened for 6 a.m. and got to rub shoulders with Nikki Sixx and the rest of his band, and talk shop with the singer James Michael. We were like the Forrest Gumps of music.
Yeah. That's a good analogy. But specifically, in things that I've read and researched on you guys before doing this interview, obviously, I can sense and from what I read and understand a lot of respect and admiration for the great Motley Crue. Where does that come from, though? Like, who first got you into Motley Crue? What was it about their music that spoke to you and said, this is the band that I'm going to rally around and champion these guys?
The minute I heard Livewire or saw Livewire on MTV, I'm like, wow. This is what I want to do. In my life, I want to play music. Seeing Nikki Sixx's leather pants catch on fire. Seeing the skulls and just that rawness of that riff, that dan to get, and I fell in love with that band. I've seen them 80 times. I just saw them in Atlantic City. Seen them 80 times. I thought that the final tour was gonna be my final time seeing them, and to this day I will not pay for another ticket to see Motley Crue, but I still love them because they created me.
Wait a minute. So you will not continue to go see them live?
I won't pay. I'll go see them live if it's free tickets, but I won't pay because I've spent so much time, so much money seeing that band in years, and for them to say that they were retired and then coming back. Yeah. But I still love them.
Just do it like Kiss does. Just tell us you're going to go on a farewell tour and have it never end.
Yeah, exactly.
Better that way.
I'd rather have that. I mean, at least Kiss is saying, "Hey, we're done. December 1st, December 2nd, we're closing the doors on at Madison Square Garden." At least they came out and said that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm interested then a couple of before I ask you some other questions, getting to some Motley Crue particulars. How do you feel about John 5? The departure of Mick Mars, the entrance of John 5 as guitar player. This will be my first time, and I haven't seen them 80 times, but I've certainly have seen them probably at least a half a dozen. And this will be my first time, obviously, seeing them without Mick.
Right. I think everyone's entitled to their own opinions about it, but I think my opinion as a Crue fan, he was awesome, flawless.
Yeah.
But he's not Mick Mars.
No.
Mick Mars has that tone, that deep, like razor sharp, tone that we all fell in love with as Crue fans. And you know, my guitar player Dave mimics that amazingly. He's got this really, really amazing guitar sound. It's like a razor as well. And that's what's missing. Otherwise, you know, Vince still sucks. Nikki and Tommy are awesome. and you're just missing, you know, Mick Mars.
That's not a good way to get yourself on the VIP list, Chigger. You know, it really sucks. But you know what, but you do hearken a very good point, though. And that was another thing that I wanted to get your take on. Now, obviously, on the last stadium tour with Def Leppard and Poison, they took an awful bashing. Vince kind of phoning it in, not being in shape. Of course, the dreaded faux pas that was caught where they start out and Tommy's not behind the kit, but yet we hear cymbals crashing. All this stuff went pretty viral on the internet. What do you think's really going on with Motley Crue? Are they baffling us with smoke and mirrors? Is there more tricks going on, or are we getting? Because I'm not a musician myself, but when you go see them, do you think you're getting the real article, or are they piping in a lot of shit to make themselves sound better?
I think that all bands play to a track these days. So Motley is definitely they're playing. They're for sure they're playing. I know they're playing. I've watched. You know, you could watch their fingers and you know they're playing.
Yeah, nobody can sing that bad.
Yeah, Vince is not listening for sure. but I think that, you know, and I said that this is the reason why I will not pay for another Motley Crue ticket to see them live and I'd go if it was free. Because I feel like, you know, they're mailing it in. Yeah, they're mailing it in for a paycheck. You know, I saw them when they were great. I saw them when they're awesome, and that's the way I want to remember them.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I think that the Dirt brought back made them some new fans, and I feel like, hey, we can make some money off these new fans that we just made from the movie. Yeah. And you know, there were a lot of younger people there when I went to see them.
And you're of course speaking about both the book and the Netflix movie that we got about them.
That's correct. And but to be honest with you, they're still a fun band to watch. You know, even with all the stuff that people don't like about them, they're still fun to watch.
They're polarizing for sure. Yeah.
You hear Shout at the Devil, you hear stuff from the Dr. Feelgood record. You're like, yes, this is what I love about this band. Right.
And that's the thing that gets me so excited, because it's really like a night where me and my wife can go and we can actually just like whoop it up. And these are songs, you know, being byproducts of the 80s. Me and my wife are both 50 years old. You know, this is music that you grew up with. But now the $1 million question, though, and for me, the way you're speaking of Motley Crue is kind of the way that I feel about the great Def Leppard. Now, you know, everybody can play devil's advocate, but who's the closer of that show?
It should be Motley Crue. It should be Motley Crue, but I didn't stick around for Def Leppard. But all the video that I've seen of Def Leppard, because they closed the night that we saw, phenomenal. They were phenomenal. Yeah, phenomenal. I mean, I've met Rick Allen a couple times, and he's such a nice guy. Yeah. But he's also playing electronic drums. He's not doing it the acoustic stuff like Tommy Lee. Right.
That's true. That's true.
But they're still an amazing. I mean, Joe Elliott, for him to sing that way for all these years and still sound that great, phenomenal. You gotta tip your hat.
And the one thing that I like about them, a lot, like I just mentioned about Vince kind of phoning it in and not putting a lot of the work in to get into shape, Def Leppard seems to have really gotten it. You know what I mean? They seem to be taking better care of themselves now physically than they ever have. I mean, Phil Collins is fucking somehow turned into some shredded MMA fighter. I mean, you know, but they seem like now, and maybe it's not the glamorous stuff that you think about back in the 80s, where now they're giving you a tour of the tour bus and there's a juicer and vegetables and stuff like that. I mean, you know what I mean? But that's the kind of stuff that has to go into, I believe. You know what I mean? That's really giving the fans their money's worth.
Right. No, absolutely. Even my wife, she talks to me. She goes, you know, we have two little ones now. She's like, so you're going to go on tour. She's like, what's going to happen here? And, you know, it's like, I'm bringing you with me.
Really? Is that the move? Are the kids small enough to bring along too?
Yeah. I mean, the one's only 6-7 months old, and the other one's 3 years old. So we could actually bring them on the road. I mean, we're right now, RAHWAY's gearing up. We're gonna be promoting a new EP. and we're just gonna do like weekend warrior type stuff, so we could drive to these venues and play shows. And the days of the touring, like, you know, we're too old for that.
Yeah, yeah. But at least you realize that, though. But like, so like, so opening for like a Motley Crue on a tour of this magnitude, something that can't happen for you guys, though, going by your personal lives, correct? You couldn't go out, like, if they said, God, we really love you guys, because they have brought out some bands that are like openers to the openers. Like, I think on some of those shows they brought out this guy named Tuck Smith. I don't know, Tuck Smith and the Restless Hearts.
Yeah,
I don't know if he was before Poison and Joan Jett, or if he was like the opener to the openers. I mean, but no, is that anything that you guys would ever aspire to go do, or would it be very difficult?
No, we've been offered that stuff. We got offered a tour opening for Seven Dust,
okay,
and Tremonti, but we had to turn it down because they wanted everyone in the band to be vaccinated, and at the time, no one in the band was vaccinated, and we couldn't do it. Fast forward a few months later, we found out that no one in Seven Dust was vaccinated either. So
how did they get to slip through the cracks? Being the headliner has its advantages, I guess.
Yeah. So,
are you now? Did you have a particular stance on the vaccine?
I'm not opposed to it, but I don't care for it, to be honest.
I work in healthcare. I'm a nurse by day, so like my job depends on it. You know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, I don't hate it. You know, everyone in my family is. You know, I already caught COVID, so
me too a couple times. Yeah,
and it's like I've seen a lot of my family members who are vaccinated catch it, so it's like I get it. It maybe shortens it, but you still caught it.
Right. Another interesting thing that I read, I don't know if this is like a bass player thing or whatever, the admiration for Nikki Sixx. Do I also led to believe that you're friends with Rex Brown?
Yeah, I know Rex really well. He actually.
So what do you feel about the big Pantera reunion now? It seems like everyone has an opinion on that. It's a cash grab. It's not the real thing without the brothers. They can't do this. They can't do that. They shouldn't be trucking out the name. They should be calling it a Pantera-esque tribute or whatever. Yeah. What's your opinion on it?
I love Rex. He's a really good guy. Every time we see him out at NAMM, he's always hugging us, and we spent some time together. We spent a quality time together with Rex.
Yeah.
And I was happy to see this happen for him.
Yeah.
To me, it's a Pantera tribute. It's not a reunion, because a reunion would mean all four members are back together, which is impossible.
Right.
So it's a tribute and a celebration to the brothers. And would the brothers be happy about this? Who knows? We'll never know.
Right.
Is it a cash grab? I think that they're donating some of the money to the Abbott family. So if it's a cash grab, they're giving portions of it to the Abbott family. So it's not really a cash grab. I think they're legitimately doing it for the fans.
Right. And plus, I hate the term cash grab too, because it's like, what, these guys are going out doing their job and being paid for it? That's a cash grab. I mean, look at Bruce Springsteen, has all the money in the world, but he still wants you to pay $400 a ticket to go sit in the nosebleeds. He certainly doesn't need to grab your cash. You would think he made a good amount of it up to this point in his career, but this is what people do for a living.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like we don't want our rock stars to be destitute. And even in my own being naive, I've had a lot of guests on here, and a lot of them, their faces pop up on the screen, and I think, wow, there's somebody that I've listened to for the better part of my life, 20, 30, 40 years or whatever. And then I find out that a lot of these guys are working day jobs. It really is a tough slog nowadays in the music business. I guess in my own being naive, I look at them and just think, oh, they've got to be all set. And, not meaning like they're sitting up in a mansion with servants and everything, but you just think, you've been doing this for a long time. You probably ought to be set. But it's not always the case, especially with certain genres of music. Like if I had people that are in thrash bands on here, genres that don't really get quite as much love as mainstream music does.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I used to know Johnny Resnick from the Goo Goo Dolls. I used to work in radio in New York. And Johnny, they had all those hits right back in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
And this guy's still working a day job. So, I mean, there's that. But then you got guys like Steve Brown and PJ Farley from Trickster, who are never worked a day job in their life. They were constantly working. They did the cover circuit, which helped pay them. They got paid well doing the covers and stuff like that. And it was time again. There's Steve playing with Def Leppard, and PJ's now playing with Fozzy. So it all comes around full circle.
Right.
Those guys, that's their day job, being musicians.
And note to PJ, I have reached out to him several times to get him on here. So PJ, if you're listening, come on, brother, please, come on. I was a Trickster fan back in the day. That wasn't an easy thing to admit for a guy back in the 80s. I mean, they were traditionally, a lot of those bands, man, get the knock on being like very, you know, you went to those shows back then. If you were a guy, man, it was a chick fest. You know what I mean? A lot like going to see thrash and death metal is kind of a sausage fest. I mean, it's mostly guys there, you know, worshiping these bands, you know what I mean? But you guys really seem to be towing a really good line, a lot like Motley Crue, where your music is badass, and I can certainly see guys getting into it, but I could see chicks rocking to it too, though.
Yeah. Actually, the last time we played a place in Clifton, New Jersey called Dingbats, we unveiled one of our new songs called "The Cat's Away." Yeah, and you just see a bunch of girls just bobbing their heads, getting it, like really getting into dancing. So we're like, we're onto something here. With
in the industry, we call those panty droppers.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. but one thing that I love that you guys do, though, and you know, of course, you know, me being in my 50s now, I remember when MTV note to the kids out there, MTV actually used to play music video.
Right, they did.
Kids might not understand that, but you know. Much to my surprise, I go on YouTube and bands are still making videos. So do you think that's still a pivotal part of being a band getting something visual out there?
It is 100%. I do some freelance work for a concert promoter, and when I work on his website, I love it when bands actually have brand new music videos up.
Yeah,
you got to be able to tell your story of your music too, visually. Yeah. You know, we're a visual society, right? So
absolutely,
it's not just about the music. You want to see what the story is when you're listening to this music. So you know, if you go on RAHWAY's site, you know, RAHWAY's YouTube page, you'll see a bunch of videos, and we work very hard at putting these videos together too.
Yeah, I can tell they're very good. And now one that really amazes me with just the amount of people that are in it is the video for Sugar.
Oh, Sugar, yeah.
Which I feel like is you guys' home sweet home.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, I mean, very well done, and you just got a lot of people involved. And the one thing, you know, that I really like about your music is it's unfortunate that, well, you know, you obviously you choose your career path, and you guys are pretty happy where you are. But I mean, you know, that is music that would sound fantastic in huge stadiums. Great hooks, great anthemic choruses, really, you know, music you could really get behind and have a good time to. But then you write a song like Sugar. What's the impetus behind writing something like that? What's the meaning? Maybe I'm missing the meaning.
Well, the brothers are actually the guys who write all the songs, like most of the songs. Like I have a lot of input as far as the bass parts.
Okay.
So the drummer Steve, actually, I think he wrote it about a girl.
Okay.
And missing her, and just missing her. So at the time, we were actually going to put Stone out as our first single for that record.
Okay.
And then I came up with this idea, since we were in the middle of a pandemic, and we were living in a Zoom society where we only communicate through Zoom. Right. So I said, why don't we film ourselves at home performing Sugar and make that the first single off this record, since we can't really go out and promote anything right now. Right. And let's get some content up there. And I said, you know, why don't we invite our friends to sing the hook, and we'll do it like Zoom style and have
great idea.
So we put it out there, and we were inundated with videos of people singing the hook from
caught on. Yeah.
PJ Farley, Don Jameson, people from the Z100 morning show. Like, it was great. You know, I was able to bring a lot of our friends, a lot of our fans actually were sending in videos to be a part of this. So, and then I forgot what the question. So what the song was about, I think, was about my drummer really missing his girlfriend.
How much inspiration for material have girls given rock stars over the course of the years? You know what I mean? Like, it's always about a chick, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, my drummer, who writes a lot of the lyrics, he actually, I noticed that he's been hurt a lot of times.
Yeah, lays himself out there, huh? He's not the one that everyone compares to Bigfoot, is he?
No, that's Dave. That's my guitar player.
Okay.
The drummer is the one that everyone says looks like Ron Jeremy.
Oh, okay.
Not as big, not as, you know.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a difference between looking like Ron Jeremy and looking like Ron Jeremy from the waist down.
Yeah.
Another band that you guys have some history with is that you guys that at least I've read that you've played with and had a lot of interaction with, Skid Row.
Yeah.
Who I'm about to go see up at the Turning Stone Casino here. I was fortunate enough to have a quick story. A while back, I got to have Audie Desbrow on here, who's the drummer for Great White.
Yep.
So now he's putting me on the list. This has, doing this little podcast thing has its benefits. You know what I mean? Make some friends with some people, man, and people put you on the list. So this is going to be the first time of me seeing them with yet another lead singer. Usually the big packages, and me and my buddy that goes with me, I'll always make a running joke about this. Shout out to Rick. We've gone a couple times, and we've seen them and Slaughter. For some reason, that seems to be the package. And I asked Audie about that, and he said, their management company, out of all the packages, the Great White Slaughter package is the most popular one with casinos and people that want to book shows. They like that combination. But this time, Great White is coming with Kip Winger and Skid Row. And I've yet to see Skid Row. I've not yet seen Skid Row live ever. But obviously, it's a polarizing topic without Sebastian. I don't know. Obviously, you've had more interaction with this new lead singer. Baz sounds like he could be a huge pain in the ass, though. That seems to be the general consensus. I don't know Baz personally, but I know a lot of people clamor for him getting back together. Doesn't seem like it's in the cards, though, does it?
It's not happening. It's definitely not happening. I know both parties. I know Bass, and I know
all Jersey guys. Right.
Yeah, I worked with Bass. I was bass tech for like a couple shows. He probably doesn't remember it, but I also know Snake and Rachel from Skid Row. The new guy Eric sounds like Sebastian.
Does he?
Yeah, he sounds very much like Sebastian. But the thing I used to love about Skid Row was Sebastian back in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
That first record, those first two records are amazing.
Amazing.
And Sebastian still carries that torch as a solo band. But then this kid comes in and he's singing this new song, The Gang's All Here. And I'm like, whoa, did they get Sebastian back?
Yeah, that's the name of the tour, actually. That's the name of the tour package. The Gang's All Here. Yeah.
So, and I think they just announced it's Skid Row and Buck Cherry going on a fall tour this year.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're great. They're a great band. Snake has been very appreciative of the support I've given them. Yeah. And we've opened for them a few times. And it just went well together. And actually the last time they played at Starland Ballroom in Sayreville, they rehearsed at the same place that they actually took our room. We were rehearsing that night, and we were asked if we could move rooms because Skid Row was coming in to rehearse. But at that time, the old singer from Dragon Force was singing
with them. Right. Yes. Right.
And cool guy, very nice guy, but he just didn't fit like as much as this kid does.
Yeah, I'm kind of a purist too. I feel like it's very hard. It backfires a lot of the time, and there are instances where replacing a singer has worked. Bon Scott being replaced by Brian Johnson.
Right.
To say what you want, I'm obviously a David Lee Roth guy, but Hagar came in and did a commendable job. Some people even like that John Corabi album and swear that it's Motley Crue's best album.
I think so. So.
Yeah. I mean, but a lot of times it doesn't work though. Like like me being a huge Great White fan, and what I really liked about Great White back then, I grew up. My father listened to a lot of blues music, and Great White seemed to be able to somehow shoehorn that in and infuse that into the hard rock that they played. And you felt that grit in Jack Russell's voice. You know what I mean? Like where he was really wearing it. I don't know how this new young kid is going to do. Brett Carlisle, I guess his name is.
Yeah, right.
Is the guy singing now? And from what I've seen on YouTube videos, he seems like he's doing a pretty good job carrying the torch. But
it's Jack Russell's Great White.
Jack Russell's Great White, but now he's pretty much at a point where he has to do the majority of the show on a stool. Though he's really had some bad back problems. He don't stand up and move around no more. No, he's got a bad degenerative problem. I think a lot like Mick Mars has, where like he's sitting down, like they got him kind of propped on like a stool.
Wow, that's terrible. I mean, aging just sucks.
It does. I know. I work in a nursing home, so I see it all the time. I'm passing meds to people. I'm thinking, fuck, I don't want to do this. For God's sake, this is
heartbreaking.
Awesome. Heartbreaking. Yeah. But and I also hope to maybe get backstage and say what's up to Audie, and also chastise Kip Winger for being able to somehow still be the most handsome guy in any room he's in after all these years. What the fuck is up with some of these guys, man? A lot of these rock stars, they either still look incredibly good or they just really hit the wall, the complete opposite. Like Vince Neil, for instance, was a huge sex symbol back in the days, and now it's just like the shirt doesn't cover the belly. It just doesn't look right. You know what I mean? He's the guy they maybe should have replaced, but then the general consensus is people love Motley Crue with Vince.
Yeah. I mean, look, when they brought John Corabi and they couldn't sell, anything. They couldn't sell anything. They begged, the fans begged to have Vince back, and they got what they wanted. And Vince, he's a great front man. But right now, I just, I love that band, but I feel like they're mailing it in.
Yeah. Yeah. So the EP in 2020, Slumlords of New Jersey, which is a great name. I mean, just
Thank
a
you.
great name for an EP. I mean, it really sums up. It really it really
Slums
slums up.
up, slums up.
It really sums up the sound that you guys really have, though. Raunchy, gritty, dirty. Where does that come from? Is that like a moniker you guys kind of give yourselves as like a group of guys?
It's so funny because we did an interview with Juliet Huddy. She used to be on Fox News.
Okay.
She wanted to interview us, so she sent me a bunch of questions, so I answered them, and I for some reason I just said, oh, we're RAHWAY, the Slumlords of New Jersey. I just came out and said it. I just came up with it, and ever since then, everyone's like, oh, that's a great name. That's a great name. So we started using it.
Sure.
And we went in with our producer, Mike Orlando from the band Adrenaline Mob, and he said, you guys should call this CD Slumlords of New Jersey because it's such a great title.
Shout out to that guy. Great suggestion. Yeah.
So we stuck with it, and it's been like kind of like our nickname, the Slumlords of New Jersey.
So when you guys get together as a band, now I know that you mentioned that the brothers do a lot of the writing, but what's the creative process like when you all get together in a room? Is it collaborative? Is somebody bringing the lion's share of the ideas? I mean, like, how does it go when you guys say we're going to sit down and do a project?
It's collaborative. Sometimes Steve, the drummer, the Ron Jeremy lookalike, will come in and like say, "Oh, I have this idea for a song," and he'll hum it, and then we'll just come up with the guitar parts for it.
Yeah,
and then he'll share the lyrics with our singer, and then before you know it, we have a new song. Sometimes Dave, the guitar player, will come in and he'll throw a riff down, and we'll just start jamming it, and then we'll record it. Drummer will go home, put some lyrics to it, and then there you go. You got another song.
Yeah.
So I've never had chemistry with a band like this before. Like usually, actually no, I had a chemistry like this with that band Smokestar. But this having this again to be able to cohesively write like this with the brothers, has been great. It's good. The chemistry is just amazing.
So since you guys, you said you had mentioned earlier that just going out and doing selected dates, touring here and there, going away for a couple of days at a time, not committing to big long tours. What is the big picture then for the band though? Because you guys still seem like relatively like young guys. I mean, like to what level of involvement do you want to be in the business? You're putting out kick-ass music. But then you guys don't want to go out for weeks and months at a time and go out on a big grinding tour. Like, what's the big picture that you guys want to see the band go to?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we all still have day jobs. So, I could work remotely. I could work from anywhere. The other guys, they work like actual real jobs. Yeah. So, I mean, as long as the tour was right, and they said, hey, like you said, like Motley Crue wants you to be the first of 4 on their tour. Yeah, of course we're going to take it. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Right. And the money would have to be right because this way you'd have to supplement what we're making financially because we all have families. So to say that we won't ever go on a tour, we would. The end game, the goal is to really just have fun with what we're doing. That's what we always said. We know that the days of big record contracts and big tours are gone. Yeah, it's all you got to make it on your own. We do well. We go out and play shows. We get a small guarantee, like it might be $200-300, but we make it up in merchandise. We have some really great shirts. We've been designing some really cool shirts that people actually want to buy. And after they see the band, they go, "Wow, we really like this band." So then they end up buying CDs. I mean, if people actually have CD players anymore, they'll ask for like, "Oh, what's your Spotify now?" So.
I know. I mean, for fuck's sake, you might as well be putting the shit out on 8-tracks nowadays. I mean, fucking CDs. I mean, well, but you raised an interesting point though. First of all, it's got to be, as I said earlier, a real slog to make it, financially with what the record companies are paying you. I just had on the other day. Bill, the guitar player for Mastodon, and he was talking about how he wished that and I've heard other people kind of echo this same sentiment that he wishes the record labels and companies would have got in kind of on the ground floor with the digitized music before these websites all got to it, and we could have found a way to harness it, and get you guys paid better.
Right. And that's where the touring comes in. That's where the bands are making their money is the touring. Yeah. Record companies aren't paying for anything right now. I mean, they're covering studio costs for you to record. Yeah.
So it's almost better. You're almost better off being a DIY band.
Yeah. Right now, that's what I think.
I mean, for as much as a label is really doing for you,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, it'd be nice to have a label that would invest in you, but like I said, I mean, there's a really good label I think in Europe called Frontier Records, which has all the bands that we grew up listening to. I'd love to get on that label, but you know, I mean, they're picking up bands that from the 80s, you know,
Right,
I mean,
right,
we're not
right.
from the 80s. So.
But you know, so for somebody that doesn't work in the music business, though, I mean, you know, is it hard? You know, you guys have had this lineup intact for how long now with like you four guys?
This lineup, wow, I would have to say, not almost 10 years.
Okay, so that's a tough, so that's a tough thing, and again, I said this to Bill from Mastodon the other day, and those guys have had the same lineup since 2001, and usually when I go on and I'm going to interview somebody from a band, usually you go to their Wikipedia, and there's a laundry list of ex-members. I'm sure you've seen this too.
Yeah,
you know? I mean, everybody and their brother that's out on the Sunset Strip has been in this band or that band or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's very tough to keep that unity. So, I mean, you know, how do you four guys cohabitate and keep the morale up with as tough as the business is and still keep forging ahead? Is it hard? Have any of the guys ever had their doubts or said, Jesus, this is getting to be just too much, I might throw in the towel on this or scale back a little bit?
I would have thought so, but the two brothers, they really have a lot of drive. They really want to do this. And I want to do it with them. The singer Nick, he's a little wet behind the ears still. He doesn't have the same background in music as us. He's more of a disturbed, like new metal kind of guy. But he loves rap music as well. So it's a little different of a background. Whereas me, Steve, and Dave come from that Motley Crue, Van Halen, Kiss, Led Zeppelin. So we have that. I have to say, and we just get along. Like I never. I mean, we fight like brothers. You know, we fight like brothers, and we keep our drummer out of our group chats. and it's been like, you know, we've been lovey-dovey ever since.
That's probably that's probably safe. Keep the drummer out of everything. You know what I find funny though is that when I started doing this podcast, a lot of the most receptive people, a lot of times I throw out like a feeler like message to almost every guy in the band, because I figure, okay, if there's 4 or 5 guys in the band, you know, I up my chances of getting at least one member to come on and do. And sometimes I get responses from multiple ones, but drummers are always the first ones because nobody ever wants to talk to them. Really, you know what I mean? Like they're always kind of like, except for like somebody like Lars, who's obviously the mouthpiece of Metallica. You know what I mean? He carries the lion's share of the media and likes to do the press and all that stuff because he's kind of a chatty guy. But drummers are always leaping at the chance to come on a podcast.
We try to keep our drummer away from the media.
Enough said. So you know, so with you saying that Nick likes a lot of rap, will any of that seep into Rahway's music in a new metal type of fashion? You guys won't become a Limp Bizkit or a Korn.
No. It's totally separate. He knows that too. He knows he's been very good at keeping it separate. As his side project, he has his own separate like Instagram page and websites for that. He keeps it totally separate. He doesn't even mention, like when he's doing interviews about that, he doesn't even mention Rahway, which is fine with us. And we don't mention his thing. So it's fine. I mean, he has 2 lives. His thing. Now you say his thing. Is this a project? And of course he is going to come on. So, you know, I will space you guys' episodes out or whatever, unless I get all of you guys and then I make it like a Rahway month and I just release one every week. But, you know, regardless of when I speak to him, is his rap thing, and he can tell me more about this, is his rap thing already named, or does he just use his regular name? No, he has a name for it.
He's got a rap moniker then. Okay. I can let him divulge. You know, I don't want you to divulge too much, so I have some stuff to talk with him about. But I think he may go down as the first rapper ever with a mohawk. I can't think of one.
I think that Nick, since we've been playing together for so long, he always felt like whenever we played shows, me and Dave were always getting recognized. We were the ones that we'd walk into the crowd after the show and people were coming up to us to talk to us about the show and all that stuff. And I think that Nick felt like, hey, I'm the lead singer. They should be coming up to me. So he had to create an identifier for himself. So he put this mohawk thing together, and that's what I think. He might tell a different story, but I think that
persona, right? It's
So now people are singing, oh my God, you're the singer of Rahway. Now everyone's coming up to him and talking about the music, and and that's good for him. You know, I think he needed that to give him a little more confidence on stage, and the confidence has boosted since he's done this.
It's a lot like when somebody doesn't recognize Tommy Lee and then he just whips out his cock, and then you're like, oh, okay.
Oh, you're that guy.
Oh, you're that guy. So how early did you start out in music? Did you know early on that this was going to be the career path you were going to take, or did you have designs on doing something else?
No, I was going to be a doctor. No, no, I was 18 years old. I picked up the bass. I always loved Motley Crue. I wanted to be Nikki Sixx.
Yeah.
You know, the first songs I ever learned was Same Old Situation, with my band Wet Tees.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was 18 years old when I actually started playing music, and I never looked back.
Best Motley Crue album is what?
Huh?
Best Motley Crue album is what?
My favorite one? My favorite one?
Yeah.
My favorite one was definitely the Motley Crue with Motley Crue record with Robbie.
Yeah.
If I had to pick a second favorite, it has to be Too Fast for Love.
Yeah.
And then
the early stuff. Yeah.
And I love them all. Like just like they said in that uncensored video, I love them all. Saints of Los Angeles was a great one too.
Is it crazy to say? Is it crazy to think that we're sitting here talking about like Nikki Sixx with the life that he led? You know, just kind of putting the focus on him. That he's even still here. The guy fucking died, for God's sake.
Yeah.
And now here he is. He's been an author. He's written books. The Heroin Diary is a fantastic read.
Amazing,
unbelievable.
Book, yeah.
And the audiobook is fantastic because he narrates it himself. But what a wild ride!
Yeah, no, I love talking to him too because he loves music. He genuinely loves music, and a lot of times, me and him, whenever I do these Zoom interviews with him. We only get like 15 minutes, and we're sitting there, we're into it. We're talking about
just as you're getting going. Yeah, you feel like you got to shut it down.
And I go, Nikki, I got to go. He goes, oh man, already? Our time's up already.
So you're saying that there's a good chance if I play my cards right, Chigger, and I get in your inner circle that I could parlay this into a potential Nikki Sixx interview?
Well, I mean, it depends who his publicist is at the time.
You know, put the good word in for me. That's all. No pressure. But the funny thing of it is, and I want to address this, I think a lot of the 80s bands, Motley Crue included, maybe even the aforementioned Def Leppard, Poison, other bands that we talked about, I think because of that era, and I know being a teenager and growing up in it, but I think a lot of the music back then was viewed as more style over substance. It was more about the looks and the makeup and all that stuff. But then when all the dust settles here years later, you find out that a lot of these guys are really fantastic players, and they have stood the test of time, and they are still here. Now Motley Crue is one of those bands that outside of Tommy and Mick, a lot of times the other guys' talents aren't really as appreciated. As a bass player yourself, where does Nikki Sixx rate as a bass player?
Oh, well, as a bass player, I mean, he was more of the show than the playing. So I mean, he doesn't rank that high as far as bass players go.
Yeah,
just some of my favorite bass players were actually real bass players. Like Jason Newsted was one of my favorites. Cliff Burton, of course. Yeah. Frank Bello from Anthrax, who I speak to a lot as well. Yeah. Rex Brown, Duff McKagan.
Yeah.
Rachel Bolan was a great bass player too.
And so you think Nikki is a lot more of a lot of the, kind of handles a lot of the duties that like Lars does. We all know Lars, not technically the most sound drummer, great for Metallica, but never going to be heralded as, oh my God, like this guy's like the second coming of John Bonham or something. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone knows that Lars is limited in his playing, but how he propels Metallica forward. I mean, he's a great savvy businessman and just a great self-promoter. I think probably that's kind of what you're saying about Nikki as well.
No, I think that Nikki got better through the years.
Like, he had. Okay.
When they first started out, he wasn't really that great of a guitar player, a bass player. But through the years, he got better. You could hear it, and from Dr. Feelgood on, he started to get really, really good. Yeah. And then let's not forget, he's the main songwriter of Motley Crue.
Right.
So he'll always be remembered as the main. Motley Crue was his vision.
Right.
So he'll go down as one of the greatest songwriters in our genre of music.
Agreed. Yeah. So, go ahead.
No, so I was just saying that I feel like, I might not have him up here as far as best bass players, but he definitely got better through the years, and he could be up there as one of my favorites. I mean, he is one of my favorites he is my favorite of all time.
Yeah.
But
a lot of it's the whole package, though. It's not just the bass playing. It's all encompassing. Yeah.
Right.
So during COVID, did Slumlords come out before the pandemic hit, or did you guys get that out before the pandemic hit?
during the pandemic.
During the pandemic. So when everything was, when we were all hunkered down and quarantined and all that shit was going on, did you guys, so you guys were recording then, or you were writing it?
No, the CD was done. The CD was done.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the country went into complete shutdown mode.
Yeah.
And that's why we had to come up with this idea to film our parts for Sugar at home. And then when we decided to shoot the video for Stone, which was supposed to be the first video, you'll notice that I'm the only one in the band wearing a mask.
You are,
yeah. Kind of paranoid. I'm still kind of, at that time, I'm still kind of paranoid about the whole pandemic. These guys are like, oh, I don't care. It's smoking cigarettes in this warehouse that we're filming in. Yeah. And I was the only one wearing a mask. So, you know, there was that. And then eventually we started to get a little comfortable with each other again. And
I like in that video, I think it's meant to be tongue in cheek, but you guys are kind of walking into that warehouse and like it's almost like you're being approached by like paparazzi, or people want to see what's happening. You know, if people want to see like what's happening inside, what's Rahway up to. A lot of those concepts in the humorous side of stuff, like who comes up with that stuff? You know, who says, why don't we make it like we're this, you know, huge mega band going into this warehouse and somebody wants to be privy to what we're doing in there? You know what I mean? Like, who's got the humorous side?
That was my idea, because we were like, we were done. We were done filming for the day, and then it was like it was starting to get dark out. I'm like, oh, I got a great idea. I'm like, why don't we act like we're these huge rock stars and walk into the studio, and like you're like the paparazzi trying to get us, like trying to get questions out of us, and we're just like trying to shun you. He goes, our manager Larry was like, yeah, that's a great idea. So that's what he did. He just followed us with a camera, and we just filmed those snippets, and we put it at the beginning of the video. So
when you decide to put a cover tune on there, is that something that's also a collaborative thing where everyone enters their feedback? How do you arrive at Jet, written by Linda McCartney?
Well, that's something.
Great song, by the way. Great song. You know, certainly not judging it. And I like when people put a cover on that you know, that where people are kind of working outside their comfort zone, and not a song where you would think like, oh wow, they covered a Wing song. You know what I mean? So, that's cool. That is cool. But who comes up with that?
So Dave, the guitar player, actually said, hey, you know, we used to cover Jet from McCartney like years ago. He's like, let's bring that back. So he told me to listen to it. I gave it a listen, and I'm like, yeah, this would sound nice, heavy.
Yeah.
You know, Nick's never heard it because he's like I said, he's a product of the new metal years. Yeah. So he's never heard it, and it was interesting to see him turn that into what he was able to turn it into with his voice.
Yeah.
And Rahway it up. So
did you find, when we were hunkered down, getting back to the COVID thing, did you find that a particularly creative, you know, a fruitful period? Did you guys feel more like the creativity was more in abundance because you had nothing better to do? Did you guys do a lot of writing? Did you yourself do a lot of playing? Like, what was life like for you guys when you couldn't go tour, couldn't go play shows? I mean,
I honestly didn't think that we were going to be able to practice ever again. So
yeah, it was crazy.
You know, I mean, the idea was to stay relevant. So we were always, all of us were cohesively trying to come up with ideas to keep the band at the top of mind, whether it was coming up with music videos, lyric videos,
right?
Doing like a Facebook Live with the whole band, like in a Zoom style, just to get whoever, you know, the few fans that we have to remember us.
Right. So. Well, I'm glad you brought that point up. About keeping your name in people's minds. I'm curious to think what you guys feel collectively or individually about the style or you know, the format that you release music on. Obviously, everyone's trying to stay relevant. People don't seem to have the attention span that they used to. They don't sit down and drop the needle and listen to an album from start to finish. A lot of times, you know, it's kind of just like, you know, show me your best kick-ass track. If I don't like it, I'm moving on and going to find something else. So where do you think, you know, you guys have released full lengths, you guys have released EPs, you guys have released singles. Is there a right answer to that question right now? Obviously, you can hammer the public with singles, and you know, every 30 days or 90 days, you're putting something out. Oh yeah, they're putting something out again. Or you could put an album out that that people don't listen to 2/3 of it. You guys have an opinion on that one way or another?
Well, the plan for this new record is to put them out as singles. Okay. Singles. You know, we're working with a booking agency right now, and they love the idea of just putting out singles. And at the end, once we release them all, we'll just put it all onto a CD and put it out there. Like you said, everyone's attention spans are like, you know, like that. So
you're gone. You're here today, gone tomorrow.
Right. So if we have the content and just keep putting singles out, That's what we're gonna do. We have 6 songs recorded, 6 really good songs recorded.
Yeah,
we can't wait to get the songs out there for people to listen to. But the plan is to now go in and shoot videos for them because we're pretty much almost done with the CD.
Yeah. I think another big issue is too, and I've asked a couple other musicians, and I guess it's probably healthy that their answer was they try not to give it too much thought, because I guess if you did obsess about it, it could really, impede your creativity. But, if you put out a long play and you got 12 or 13 kick-ass songs on there, a lot of times people just want to hear that, like I said, that catchiest one or that one that resonates with people. Right. And some of your deeper tracks, you may have slaved over these and might think that these things are gems, and then the work just never gets heard. Nobody gives a shit about it. Can that be like a disheartening thing? It probably is healthy not to think about it, though.
Yeah, that's something we definitely don't think about. I mean,
you can't.
when you write these songs out, the ones that are going to be huge hits because
sure.
I don't know if you remember that what Bon Jovi used to do. He used to have the bubblegum theory where he used to, or pizza house theory, where he used to play a bunch of songs for a bunch of people at a pizza place, and then have them write down on paper which songs they like the best, and that's how they would come up with their records.
Yeah.
So we actually do that. We have friends come down to the studio. They tell us what they like, and then those are the songs that we keep. We'll always have like a ballad or two on there.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of the ballads. I like the hard, heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But we have a ballad on that's on there. Dave wrote a killer song called Rocket Ship that's really, like you said, arena friendly. It's like,
I would consider Sugar to be a ballad, though, an up-tempo ballad, but certainly a ballad.
It is a ballad. And actually, if you go back into the RAHWAY discography, there's a song called Yesterday that I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah.
I'd love for them to bring that back. So we might bring that back and put that in our set. It's a great song too. It's that, to me, that's our home sweet home.
Yeah, that's your you got to have a home sweet home. That's what keeps the chicks coming. The home sweet homes of the world, right? When Tommy sits down and tickles those ivories, man, that's when it's on right there. So when you guys are out touring and you're live, like I've never seen you guys live, but for people out in the audience who would say, geez, sum up to me what I'm going to get if I come and see RAHWAY live. What's the experience like? I take it you guys look like, to me, just what I see in the videos, a band that certainly would put a big emphasis on high energy, high octane shows. Yeah,
we're a full high energy band. And as Nick says, they're all family reunions. We see familiar faces in the front. It's the same people coming to see us, which is great because it means we're actually doing something.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember we opened for Greta Van Fleet up in Wilkes-Barre, and that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
We never played Wilkes-Barre ever in Pennsylvania, and all of a sudden now our listenership in Pennsylvania really grew because we played with Greta Van Fleet. So all their fans, we walked past their dressing room on the way out, and they just stopped. They looked at us and started giving us a standing ovation.
Yeah,
you guys from Greta Van Fleet. These kids,
that's cool.
Yeah, you're giving us a standing ovation. We thought you guys were awesome.
And Greta Van Fleet, for those that don't know, obviously like one of the bigger, up and coming bands, really carrying the torch for that vintage classic, retro hard rock sound that we remember, a la the Led Zeppelins and stuff like that. Really a band at the forefront of hard rock right now. So
I love that. I love that
from them. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that stuff. I love when the headlining band comes out and checks you out. Like we just played with Striper in the city.
Yeah.
In Manhattan, and we were talking to Michael Sweet, very very nice guy.
Yeah.
Michael Sweet's super nice, and we told him that our singer was going to propose to his girlfriend on stage, and it would be cool if you came out and checked it out. Sure enough, I look over and there's Michael Sweet on the side of the stage watching us perform.
Yeah,
banging his head. He was like rocking out with us, so it was great.
Well, those guys have set the bar high, man, for having to be nice guys, because obviously you got to be like a product of practice what you preach. You know what I mean? Like those guys have certainly painted themselves, into that role as like But I think the one thing that Striper's done really really well though for being a Christian rock band is they haven't really they've towed the line well with finding a way to infuse it into their music, but not feel like it's being forced down your throat.
Right.
That's hard to do because people hear Christian undertones in your music and they instantly start to get that dismal, oh God, so I'm going to get preached to here. You know what I mean?
Right.
Those guys don't do that.
No, they're great. I've loved Striper since I was a kid. So I mean, being able to play with them like this show was pretty fun.
So who was the guy that sang before Nick though? Because you said that Nick was kind of wet behind the ears. He wasn't your first singer.
He was a singer when I joined the band, but
He was a singer when you joined. Okay.
yeah, but RAHWAY has gone through a couple singers. Not really familiar. There was a guy named Manny Cabo, who I was telling you about.
Yeah,
He
you
was
mentioned him. Yep.
There was another guy named Steve that came in he was from Staten Island, New York. Came in and sang for the band for a while, and then after he left, there was another guy that was in there for a short amount of time. I don't remember. I think his name is Greg Schulman or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the guys had Nick's band was actually opening for RAHWAY at a place called the Brighton Bar, and Nick was really impressed at how professional RAHWAY was. And he's like, if you ever need a singer, he's like, here's my number. And Dave saw his set and thought that Nick sounded great. He goes, you'd be really good on RAHWAY stuff.
Yeah.
So they brought Nick down, and Nick killed his audition, and he became the singer of RAHWAY.
No, I'm not trying to start a big East Coast, West Coast thing here, like back in the '90s with the, like with the warring factions of the hip hop world. But it is nice that our East Coast, certainly has some kick-ass. I mean, obviously the West Coast, the infamous Sunset Strip scene, the Bay Area thrash scene. A lot of big stuff has happened out west, but there are a lot of great East Coast bands.
Oh yeah. Oh, so many. There's so many.
Yeah.
I mean, with the West Coast, of course, that's where that the genre that we listen to comes from, obviously. Right. But there are some great bands like Skid Row, Trickster. You got Angel. Remember them? Bon Jovi, of course. You can't forget Bon Jovi.
And of course, one of the ones who's getting ready to put out a new album in a different genre, the Great Overkill, who have just somehow managed to get trampled in the thrash world, is not being mentioned in the pantheon of those great bands. Right. But they have consistently, I think this is something ridiculous, like album 19 or 20 or something. Yeah. And those guys have there's been no let up from those guys. The foot never comes off the gas. They've been probably the most consistent band in thrash. Let's face it, I love Metallica. I love Slayer, Megadeth, all those bands, but they've all had hiccups in their career. They've all had that album that made you scratch your head a little bit, what I mean? And said, what the hell are they thinking here,
Right. But don't forget, there's also Biohazard, Life of Agony.
Yeah.
Those guys, Anthrax.
New York City, of course, has a legendary hardcore scene with some of the greatest bands.
Yeah.
The Great Sick of It All, obviously.
Yeah. So, I mean, this East Coast, it's been overlooked for sure.
Yeah. So when will this new album, so these new singles that you're talking about that will eventually lead up to being put out in album form, when will we see the first of these singles?
The first one we're targeting April.
Okay, right around the corner.
Yeah,
okay.
It's coming up. We're getting ready to shoot the video for the first single, "Carry You."
Okay.
And it's about a guy who's been carried most of his life and didn't realize he was being carried, and he turns around and carries the other guy. He's been carried. Yeah, it's an interesting concept, but
carrying in the sense of what, a physical, or more like I'm carrying you through life, like you're like
carrying you through life.
Yeah,
sort of thing. So the video concept that we came up with yesterday might be more of a tribute to first responders. Carrying out of the trenches and stuff like that. So we're trying to look up some video footage of first responders carrying people out of like the trenches.
Yeah. Well, down in New York City, I mean, with all the horrible shit that happened down there, I mean, in 9/11 and immediately post 9/11, there's probably a plethora of great footage out there. I mean, that'd probably be a good starting point. I mean,
yeah.
And so when you guys go out to play live, is it pretty easy? Because again, me being naive and not knowing the ins and outs of the music business, how do you get onto a bill? Because I have heard some horror stories from young bands that that like to pay to get on a bill thing still very much exists. I mean, if you want to get on good tours, you might have to lay some money out of your own pocket. Do you get plucked by these bands? Do you got to show some interest in being on a bill? Is it just luck? How does it happen?
Well, we've built such a great repertoire or reputation for ourselves.
Yeah.
On this music scene that the place, a lot of these venues like reach out to us. Hey, do you want to open for Skid Row? Hey, or Snake would say, hey, we got room for you guys on this bill. Do you want to get on? We built your RAHWAY's for some godforsaken reason has built a reputation for themselves in this area.
Yeah.
We recently signed with a booking agent, so we're working with a booking agent now where they're going to book the gigs. We don't have to do anything anymore. But
that's cool. That's nice.
For the most part, it was me and our manager Larry, because I worked, like I said, I mentioned I worked for a concert promoter, so we were able to line up a bunch of shows together. They reach out to either me or Larry to book us.
Yeah. So your last long play was undefeated in 2017. So do you think that would it be safe to say that that going forward, you guys are going to continue, this releasing of just singles? Do you think you'll ever go back to putting out a long play album, just like throwing one out there, not the singles and then release an album at the end of it, but just, or is the market not really primed for that anymore?
I don't think the market's primed for that anymore, but my drummer wants to do a what do they call those records? He wants to write a like Operation Mindcrime. He wants
like
to write
concept album,
concept record.
Yeah.
So there's a good possibility we'll do something like that.
Has he divulged what he wants the concept to be?
No, I'm sure it's about heartbreak, like he always.
Yeah. A concept album about heartbreak.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna go put the noose out in the garage right now so I can get ready for when it drops. Just end it all right there, man. To the concept album of heartbreak. So personally, though, your own personal life, throughout COVID and throughout all this crazy shit that's been going on, your family's been all well though throughout all of it.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
My wife and I just had another baby in August. Everyone's great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's always a weird thing to congratulate somebody on, like, because the mom's doing all the work. Congratulating the father is just kind of like, hey, good job. Hey, good job on banging your wife. I
helped her push. I told her to push.
Yeah. You were there for moral support, right?
Yeah.
So what's it like when you're like obviously, your children are very young, but any reaction out of them, like when they hear your music, anything resonate with them yet? Or are they too little? Any head bobbing, anything?
My daughter, she like whenever she sees us on video, she goes, "Oh, that's daddy, that's daddy." And she sees me
cool.
head banging
Cool. Yeah.
And then she'll say Motley Crue, and I'm like, "No, it's daddy playing." And she's learned the names Motley Crue and Kiss.
So so she's already starting out with the important stuff in life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was asking one of my granddaughters the other day. I'm up in grandfather territory now, but I was asking my granddaughter, and I think I stumped her really quick. I'm like, yes, you call me Papa, but my actual name is Mark. But what's my last name? And she said Lanigan. Mark Lanigan, the singer for the Screaming Trees, who I love, and unfortunately just passed away last year. He was kind of like I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's kind of like a forgotten figure in that whole grunge scene because he didn't get the press that like the Lane Staleys and the Kurt Cobains and the Chris Cornells got or whatever. But I mean, so I got to be Mark Lanigan.
Where'd that come from?
I don't know. It just says she's got to. I'm trying to a lot like you're doing with your kids. I'm trying to like make sure that the grandkids certainly have good musical taste and diversity. I grew up in a home. I mean, like and you do hear this a lot. You hear musicians say, "Oh, I grew up in such a culturally, rich home. Music was always playing, and all these different genres." And that kind of, it's a story you hear a lot with musicians. But and not being a musician myself, but that was the case though. I mean, in our house there was a lot of music playing. So, did you grow up in a house like that too?
I did not. I grew up in an old-fashioned Chinese house. I was playing the loud music upstairs in my room. My parents were like, "Oh, turn the radio down." They didn't understand. Like, I was blasting this stuff so that my neighbors were complaining. Yeah. And then once I started picking up the bass, the whole house would shake because I'm up there with my bass cabinet, just playing riffs, and my parents would yell at me, turn it down and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I meet my wife who's like a bigger metalhead than I am.
Oh, that's cool.
We bonded over music. She listens to stuff like Killswitch Engage and Pantera. I mean,
heavy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the heavy stuff. So she's like bigger metalhead than I am.
See, I have to draw the line somewhere. I can get my wife to go to like the stuff like the Def Leppard, Motley Crue stuff. But if I go any heavier, if I don't have a friend to go with me, I will fly solo to these shows, like little club shows, which my son told me is kind of lame. But I'm like, you know what? If I don't have companionship for the night, I'm not going to not go see something I want to see because I don't have quote unquote somebody to roll with. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I've gone up to the local dive bar out in Syracuse, and it's like a 30-40 minute drive out there, but I'll go see something. The thing I like most about the rock and metal community is that there's a lot of camaraderie. You go out to one of those things and suddenly someone comments on your shirt or something, and suddenly, man, you've made a couple of friends. If for nothing else, at least for the night, you know. I mean, you bond over that stuff, and I think it gets a bad rap a lot of times because, you know, obviously heavy metal, a bunch of fucking knuckleheads, you know what I mean, blah blah blah, or whatever. But I find it to be like one of the genres that's really the most embracing.
Oh yeah, no, most of my friends were made from going to concerts and a little bit of marijuana.
Yeah. Okay, so that now that you brought that up, are you a current smoker? I'm a big smoker myself, not a drinker, but
I'm an eater.
You're an eater. Okay, so you like the edibles then? You're an edible guy.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I quit smoking back in 2008, cigarettes.
Yeah, and good for you. That's the same year I quit.
Yeah, so I mean, ever since I quit, I hated that smoke in my throat. So I said, you know what, I'm just gonna start doing the edibles because it's a little bit better for my lungs.
And did you ever think we'd see the day, man, like where you'd be going into like convenience stores and seeing CBD stuff and oils and stuff like right there on the shelf, like next to the cigarettes and next to the, you know, I mean, it's crazy.
I knew it would be here eventually. I
did?
Yeah, I wasn't sure it would be in my lifetime, but I knew it would get here eventually.
And so going back to your upbringing, though, like what did your parents want you to be? Because I know I had Asian American friends growing up as well who had very strict parents, and some of them had very strict visions for what they thought their kids, you know, should aspire to.
Well, they always want you to be a doctor, obviously.
That's why you made the crack at the beginning, right?
yeah, they always want you to be a doctor. But you know, I mean, my dad was very lenient. He just wanted me to be happy. My mom was always the one that was very strict. Wanted me to be a doctor. But you know, I mean, they couldn't stop me. And listening to bands like Motley Crue and Skid Row and Guns N' Roses made me rebel against everything that they wanted me to be. So
the seeds were planted. Yeah.
So I loved writing. So my dad said, be a writer. So I went to school to be a journalist. Went to William Patterson University to be a journalist, and then I ended up working in radio for 13 years in New York. And then after that, my wife and I moved down to the South Jersey area. Went back to school, and then I got a second degree in advertising and public, and I got a master's degree in public relations. So
good for you. Good for
ended up working at Hard Rock, opened the Hard Rock in Atlantic City, and became a public relations professional. So,
and I wonder if it has to do with a regional thing, though, because I don't want to generalize all Asian Americans, because you said you grew up in a Chinese home, but like my close friend growing up was from Laos, so maybe his father came off a little more strict. Maybe it's a regional thing. Yeah.
No, my parents they're American born, so they're not as strict as their parents were. Their parents were strict.
Right. Yeah.
So they weren't, you know, they just wanted us to be happy. They wanted us to do what we needed to do to be happy, and you know. Here we are.
What the fuck, man? I love this band. How do we get RAHWAY to fucking world domination? How the fuck do we go about it? Let's start plotting, scheming. I mean, for God's sakes, man.
We're working on it.
I know you guys are working on it. But you know, the music is just, you know, and usually, and I'm not going to say that I've been a fan for years and years and years. The one thing that I like about technology is, you know, having an Apple Music account. You go on and check out stuff that you like. But then if you go to the bottom of the page, it'll give you like suggestions. Like, geez, if you like this band, you may also like it. And I found a lot of great music that way, though. So I do like it in that respect. You know,
that's how did you find us? How'd you find us?
That way.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, that way, but I'm not sure who I was initially seeking out on Apple, where I would have scrolled to the bottom and seen your band. But it obviously is usually somebody that sounds a lot like you. So I'm not really sure, you know, who I was looking up or whose catalog I was trying to explore. But once I heard you guys, I mean, I'll admit I was hooked. It brought me back to like nicer time. I think the best thing about music is it's like almost like a you know, traveling back in time. It's like the sound like brings you to something, you know, like if I'm, you know, if I hear like Master of Puppets or I hear like old Motley Crue, I'm right back to being 15 years old, standing around with my buddies in the woods, drinking beer and up to shenanigans or whatever. And it's nice because it makes you feel 15 again. You guys have a tendency to be able to do that with your music, you know?
That's great. I love hearing that, because that's exactly the way we write. That, you know,
I mean, which is a huge, it's a huge testament to what you guys do, you know?
Right. Yeah, and I love that. I wish we could turn music into a time machine, which I always felt it was anyway. It always transports you to that, like when I hear like "I Remember You" or 18 in Life, it brings me back to like that time period. And whether it's good or bad.
Right. I'm curious about the song. I just have to ask, only just because I get fascinated about the meaning of songs, and even if I know the lyrics or can listen to the lyrics, acetylene.
Acetylene. So Steve wrote that about a girl that used to make him feel like he was on fire every time he saw her because he was like so into her.
Okay. And this is the drummer again, right?
Yeah, yep.
He falls hard.
Okay, so he had, when he wrote this song, he had this girl that was way out of his league, out of his league.
Yeah.
And he used to write a lot of songs about her. He on Undefeated, there's a song called Hot Stuff that he wrote about her as well.
What does that mean when you say she was out of his league, though? Like, this was a girl that I mean, come on, he is a drummer in a rock band. I mean, for God's sake, that should carry a little bit of weight with the girls.
She was out of his league. Well, that's all I can say about that.
And so he wrote a song about her, but he never actually had a relationship with her.
Oh, he did.
He did.
He dated her for about 2 years, I think.
So he found his way into her league at some point.
Oh yeah.
And what'd she do? Kind of fucking, the age old, put him through the ringer and broke his heart, and then we get a song from it.
Pretty much.
Well, as long as girls keep on dating rock stars, man, there'd be no shortage of good love songs.
No, his ex girlfriend's a really good person. She's a good girl.
Yeah.
We're all still friends with her, and I think he's still friends with her as well. So
I'm also looking on the list of bands here, man, and I'm interested to get your take. I see that you've been on bills with Puddle of Mud. What the fuck is the matter with that lead singer? Did he just get arrested again? He's a wacko.
Did he really?
He got arrested, and after we end the interview, you could certainly go and get. I'm paraphrasing a lot of the story. You could certainly go and get more details, but and this was just within the last couple of days. He went to, apparently, I think this is on the West Coast. He went to a house where he used to live or something, and then refused to leave, or I don't know, something really weird. I harken back to when he went and did that cover of that song, and people didn't know if it was tongue in cheek or not. What was the one that he did the cover of that he just absolutely butchered?
I don't even remember.
He did a version. Yeah, he did a version of somebody else's song, and he just he seems a little out there though.
Last time we saw him, he was clean.
Yeah,
clean and sober. I've done 3 shows with him where we opened from direct support and everything.
Yeah.
But the first time we played with him up in Easton, PA, he didn't even want to get on stage. He literally like walked off stage, couldn't remember his lyrics, couldn't remember his words. Walked off stage. They had cops waiting by the back door area, wouldn't let him leave. They go, "No, you're going back on stage because you're getting paid for it."
Wow.
So he goes back up, does the set, and then the next time we played with him, he was a little bit more coherent. He was still, you could tell he was still doing whatever he was doing, still a little coherent, but a little bit more coherent. And then the last time we played with him was in Frenchtown, New Jersey. It was an outdoor show. We hung out with him like right before, totally sober, very nice guy.
Yeah.
This surprises me that he got arrested again.
Yeah. So what's the best piece of it? This doesn't have to be just music related, but I've kind of been putting together a little compilation of these. The best piece of advice you've ever been given. Doesn't even just got to be career oriented. Just a good sound piece of advice that's always kind of stuck with you.
Well, it's Gene Simmons. Gene Simmons said the days of the big record contracts are over. Stop trying. DIY is the way to go. He's look at Gene Simmons, one of the biggest marketers in the world, made all his money.
Unbelievable.
Branding his own band. So why would I not listen to what Gene Simmons had to say?
I know, absolutely. I mean, Jesus Christ, you can be buried in a Kiss coffin for God's sakes.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
He's marketed. I mean, action figures, comic books, their own cartoon for a while. Yeah. I mean, you can get anything with the Kiss font on it. I mean,
right. So if this guy's telling me don't stop trying to get the big record contract because it doesn't exist anymore, I'm not gonna do that. So so that's why I felt with RAHWAY, we turned it into a business, and it's we're the product, and me, Dave, the guitar player, and Larry treat this like a business, and we're business partners. So that's what we do more than most local bands in the area do, because they treat it like a band. Oh, we want to play music in front of our friends. we're treating this like a business, and we're trying to get this product out there to the masses.
And that's really not the glamorous side of rock and roll. But out of the 4 guys in the band, though, who is the best with the business mind type stuff? Is there somebody that takes the lead on that?
You're looking at them.
You, huh?
Yeah.
You're the guy. So, like, is it just because of like your educational background and you have a good head for this kind of stuff that you kind of drew the short straw, so to speak, that you're the guy that gets to slog through all the business shit?
I think that I think that's the reason why I'm in the band.
Yeah.
I'm not a great bass player. I just have a better head for business. I think that because of my background and what I've done for the industry, I was a writer for the Aquarian.
Right.
I made a lot of contacts. I know I have a lot of contacts in the industry.
Right.
Then becoming a PR manager for hard rock, and then having that radio background. I know a lot of people in the music industry.
Yeah.
Became really good friends with a lot of the rock stars that I grew up listening to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Because of that, I think that that's really helped the band RAHWAY.
Yeah.
Come a little bit more to the forefront than most of these local bands. These local bands are really hard. They're playing every show possible. We could just do one show a month and still be relevant because we've built our business model is that way, is to just stay relevant. That's all.
Right. It is kind of surreal because I think that too. And this wasn't why I started doing a podcast. Lord knows everybody and their brothers out there doing a fucking podcast right now. So, I mean, it's very easy to get lost in the sea of podcasts, but it is cool like just to think that even if nothing else, I've had some awesome conversations. I just put up the other day, like I'm episode 70. So I've done a lot of these and I've still got some more already in the can because I wanted to get them recorded before I started to release them. So that way I could kind of stay ahead a little bit. But, I look at it like people either want to do them to promote their band or they don't. Some people just aren't into it. But, I think especially in the music, and I don't just limit it to just musical related guests. And I don't even keep it to just one specific genre. But it is kind of cool to think though, like that a couple people have felt comfortable enough, post interview to stay in touch with me. I do have a couple of people's phone numbers, not to toot my own horn. I'm not on a CHIGGER level here with the
I'm not at any level
with, but I got a couple of personal phone numbers now, stored in the phone, and some people that I have, forged, somewhat of a friendship with. So it is kind of surreal to think like, oh my God, I'm going to go see Great White because, now I'm kind of a friendship with the drummer. It's kind of weird, like,
I mean, with those guys, cool. With those guys, as long as you don't act like a fanboy, I mean,
right.
They want to be friends with you. And then, I mean, as long as you treat them like they put their pants on the same way as you do,
right.
That's what I learned. I learned that a long time ago when I worked in radio at Z100 in New York. I was meeting all these celebrities, and at first you're like, whoa, oh my God. I got to work alongside Whoopi Goldberg for 3 years.
Crazy.
And that's you learn that these people are just regular people.
Right.
So when I do these interviews, that's why some of these rock stars, they want to continue to talk to me because I make it real. I just want to, like you and me, we've been on the phone for over an hour, hour and 20 minutes.
I know.
I know. Conversation.
And that's another thing with my episodes. I don't really put a time limit on them unless someone says they got to keep it to a time limit. And even then, I will push it. I had a boxer on the other day, and he's just like, I can give you about 30 minutes. We ended up going about 40, 45. But, I waited for him to kind of give me the cue or whatever. But, I've had ones on here as short as a half an hour. And then I sat down and chopped it up with people for, an hour and a half, 2 hour episodes. I figure that people are going to watch something if they're interested in it. If they look at it and say, geez, I love this band and I love this guy, I want to hear what he has to say for an hour and a half. Or I want to hear what he has to say for 20 minutes and I'm going to shut it off. Or I'm going to skip around and like pick parts out of it. But, I think Joe Rogan was really onto something because I think people, there is a fascination with people liking to be a third party in a conversation. Like I will fall asleep sometimes or like listen to these podcasts where people are conversing and being an outsider just listening, even in long format. I mean, it's something that's not outside the realm of being able to deal with. I like it kind of,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Kind of cool. And it's great that technology affords us the luxury to be able to do this.
Yeah. Oh, believe me, when I was interviewing a lot of these rock stars, it was always by phone.
Yeah.
Now we're in a Zoom world.
Yeah.
I'm able to actually, talk to Nikki Sixx face to face or talk to who else? I just interviewed Shannon Larkin from Godsmack. I was able to talk to them face to face instead of like on the phone.
Yeah.
Where they don't know what I look like and I don't know what they look like, but now we know what each other look like. So
yeah, I like that too. And And when I was going to launch this, I was checking out different mediums. I arrived at Google Meet because for a small fee, you'd be surprised. A lot of these places will let you do the calls in the video calls, but you have to pay a fee to be afforded the luxury to record them. You know what I mean? To kind of have them yours. So, I mean, it's a very small fee, but Google Meet seems to be working really well. Everyone seems okay with either having it on their phone or downloading it. It seemed to be the quickest and simplest of the ones to put on your device. And, you know, sending the link, no one seemed to have really struggled with it much. A few of the old time, like rockers that I've had on here who are a little bit, two left feet, so to speak, with technology. But I mean, I didn't grow up in an era of technology either. You know what I mean? Like I didn't grow up with, with video games and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm certainly not proficient with it by any means. I mean, my son showed me, how to use the Google Meet, how to log on, how to send the freaking link, and keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was, I actually had this on my computer already, so it was like perfect. Yeah. But I have Zoom, I have this, and I have Teams. So,
well, doing what you do though, it seems beneficial to have as many of these kind of options as possible, though.
Sure.
It seems like almost everybody nowadays is carrying one of these around. And I've turned a few people on to who have said, "Oh, I don't know about this Google Meet," and then they'll say afterwards, "Wow, it's great. It was easy to install, and all the things that you said it was." Because everybody instantly defers to, if I hit them up for an interview, "Oh, how are we doing this? Skype or Zoom?"
Yeah, right. Skype.
Yeah, I know. Listen, man. Just like you said, we've been on an hour plus. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, man. It really has, man. I love your band, man, and it's been great getting to know you, and hopefully being able to call you friend now. We'll stay in touch, and hopefully we can do this again when you guys got some new shit cooking, man. We'll keep in touch. Yeah,
we have new stuff coming, and
awesome.
I let my friends call me Chigger, so
so I can call you Chigger.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, we've made it, Dave. We've made it. See, man, hey, I'm calling you Chigger one day. The next minute, you'll be stored in my phone. Who knows? Sky's the limit, brother. I'm looking forward for some of that RAHWAY merchandise, though, man. You guys really seem like you put your stamp on everything. The videos are high energy. They're very visual and fun to watch. I mean, from a marketing standpoint, all the stuff that you do just gets you excited about liking a rock band. You know what I mean? Like, that's what's fun about rock and roll, Well,
after this, send me your address, and I'll make sure you get a RAHWAY care package.
Awesome. I will do that as soon as I get off. I'm always up for care packages. Fuck yeah. And I will fly your shit on this show and wear it like a badge of honor. I figure when you're wearing a band shirt or their merch, you're pretty much, you're renting yourself out as a billboard for that band. Yeah. But it carries a lot of weight. I have a friend who I grew up with, who is, he calls himself North Carolina famous. He's in a thrash band down in North Carolina that does pretty well, but a lot like your situation, they all have day jobs. They don't want to go out and tour or be any bigger than what they are. And when big bands come through in that genre, he's usually pretty good at marketing, where they get themselves on these bills. They've opened for a lot of great thrash and death metal bands. So like when they can get somebody like like a Corpse Grinder from Cannibal Corpse to wear one of their shirts on stage, it's a huge deal for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, we have a guy down in Orlando. His name is Rob Dexter. He's in a band called Kings County, and he wears our Slumlords of New Jersey shirt all the time on stage. So it's like you said, it's a walking billboard for us. We have there's a lot of bands that actually have bought our shirt online and wear it on stage. So they send us pictures, and when they send us pictures, we actually post it on our Instagrams, and that's it. It's a walking billboard, like you said.
It's baby steps towards world domination. Fuck it. This is the year of the RAHWAY right here.
There it is. Where in New York are you?
I'm in upstate, so probably geographically, I would say the closest city to me would be Syracuse.
Would be Syracuse, because I have an uncle who lives up in like Spencertown, Chatham. That area.
Yeah. So. Yep. Yeah, last night we were supposed to get hit with a big snowstorm, but it didn't seem to manifest, though. You know what I mean? It's always bigger. It's always advertised bigger on the news sometimes, than they. I'm not even going to complain about winter. I mean, no joke. I don't ever remember when I was a kid. I remember there being snow always around Halloween, snowstorms throughout the winter. I don't ever remember walking around in January, February, or March and it was fucking 60 degrees ever. You know what I mean? I just don't remember that as a kid. So there's got to be something to this global warming shit. There has to be. This is very weird weather.
Yeah, this is very weird weather. I mean, down here in Jersey, it's like 60 degrees today.
That's strange. Yeah, that's strange. Even a couple of weeks away from spring, that's still strange. Well, it's been a pleasure, Chigger. It has really been a pleasure talking to you, man. This has been one of my more enjoyable interviews. I mean, it really has, man. It's been great talking to you. And
I told you I'm a better interviewer than Nick. So
yeah, you are. I'm canceling Nick. I'm canceling Nick because I tend to, I'm sure he may watch some of this episode, but between the two of us, most guys with mohawks are assholes.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
You know, I mean, how many endearing qualities can you usually find in somebody with a mohawk? Not much. They're usually that guy, you know what I mean? That guy who's a little too loud in the room, or a little too, you know, spills his drink on you. He's a little too jovial. He's, you know, he's bumping into you. He's got to let you know that he's there. I don't know if Nick is like that. I'll draw my own assumptions when I speak to him or whatever, but
Nah, Nick's a good guy.
I know he does seem like a good guy, and I like everything he does as a frontman. He really embraces that role. You can tell that he puts a lot of thought into being a showman. I think that gets lost with frontmen a lot, where it just gets easy to stand there at a microphone stand and like not put anything into your. I mean, hell, even Fat Vince is working the stage a little bit.
No, well, actually, Nick's like one of the few frontmen that I've played with that actually moves on stage. I mean,
yeah,
I played before I played with RAHWay. I was also in a band with Ray West from the band Spread Eagle.
Yeah, okay.
So he moved around a lot. He was one of the best frontmen I've ever played with, and I have to say that Nick is second.
Well, when you're laying your money out, though, man, you want to go see the whole thing, and that's why, when people were giving Motley Crue shit, or when they were bagging on Kiss, oh, Paul is singing backing tracks. Well, first of all, he did sing that at one point in time, even if they're piping it in and he sang it back in the 70s or the 80s. But you know, these people that get on in the comment section and just dump. I defy anyone to tell me that they can do the same shit at 60 that they did at fucking 25. You know what I mean?
And being overweight and running around stage and singing like that without being out of breath, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you know, and Kiss is just, you know, I mean, especially them, to run them down when just about every musician I've had on here instantly defers to them as an influence. I've heard Kiss more times as somebody's gateway, right? As somebody's gateway into the rock and roll world. You know, it's always Kiss, and you can say what you want about the makeup or the theatrics or the part about them that maybe not being the greatest musicians, but like you said earlier, the genius thing they did was they literally branded themselves. They turned Kiss into a band and a brand. I mean, it's quite genius. I mean, Gene's laughing all the way to the bank.
You know what's crazy is I heard them on Stern the other day, and Gene says that this version of Kiss, this lineup, has been together for 20 years.
I know, it's pretty crazy.
How is that possible? 20 years.
I know. It's almost like you forget that's Tommy Thayer, not Ace. Nobody even gives a shit anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like
exactly.
Well, listen, man, I'm looking forward to RAHWay domination, man. I think it's going to fucking happen because these songs are just so fucking awesome, man. Drop a call to Nikki and tell him, look, I want to slide onto that show in Syracuse.
All right.
Say, come on, there's got to be an opening slot. I mean, come on. You know, we can't bump the great Alice Cooper for RAHWay. No, I'm just kidding. I've never seen Alice Cooper, and that's one of the parts of the show that I really am looking forward to.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
I think he was better with Nita Strauss on guitar, but I think she's playing with Demi Lovato now.
Now, does he still have Dennis in the band?
Yeah, I think
he does. Because I was perusing on my phone the other day, and you know, I've had some eye troubles in the last couple of years, and so my vision's not what it once was. So I've been doing the audiobook thing a lot, and I love when the person that writes the book, especially, does the audio version, because I don't think anybody can tell your story and the different inflections and the way to tell a story about your life, but you know, better than the person can. And I see he's got one that keeps popping up on my, you know, a book you might enjoy list, and so he's written a memoir and he narrates it himself, and I imagine there's got to be great stories in there.
Who is this?
Dennis Dunaway from the Alice Cooper band.
Yeah. I'm sure it's amazing.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward. I'd be more happy if it was Def Leppard, Motley Crue, and RAHWay, but you know, hey, you're the one that's friends with Nikki Sixx, man. If you can't make it happen, nobody can. For God's sake,
we'll try to make it happen. We'll try to
make it happen. Yeah, try to make it happen. I mean, it's not till August, so I mean, it's a long way off, man. But seriously, man, I salute you, brother. It's been a blast talking to you, man. It really has. I had a blast, man. I'll send you my address. You know me. I will. I'll be looking out for. I'm always on the. I teased my wife the other day because I'm like, this is literally all I own are band T-shirts. It's my whole wardrobe.
Me too.
I don't have another fucking thing in my drawer. It's all bands, but I think that bodes well for me as a rock fan because I am going out and I realize the importance of buying merch at these shows.
Right,
it is important.
I own 100 Motley Crue T-shirts.
That's a fan right there. You know what? I mean, just for the mere fact alone, like you probably bought a lot of them back in the day when they weren't raking you over the coals for shirts. But still, that's quite an investment into Motley Crue, though. I think Nikki owes you.
This is why I won't buy another ticket.
Yeah, you're right about that. Well, Chigger, man, it's been a blast, man. Thank you so much for
Mark.
spending this much time on here with me, man. It's been really fun, bro. Thank you.
No problem. I think my wife's looking at me for the kids, so I got.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon, brother. Thank you so much, man. All right, take it easy.
Send me the info.
Will do.
All right,
will do. Thanks, Chigger. Appreciate it.
Shirt size.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I'll include the size. It's extra fat if you want me to tell you now. But
I want the same thing.
But I'll send it to you though. Thanks, Chigger. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
All right, bro.
Later.
See you.
There he goes, folks. My new friend, Chigger. Hey, he said I can call him that. That is Tim Louie. We'll give his actual God-given name. Tim Louie from a band that I implore everyone to go check out. Please go check out RAHWAY. RAHWAY. Named after the town up there in Jersey, New Jersey. Those are some East Coast boys, and they fucking rock. Let me just tell you, these guys fucking rock. Go check out RAHWAY. Support whatever them boys are out there doing. That was a blast talking to my man Chigger, man. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode of Pod Scum. And let me remind you, in these troubled times, it's more important than ever that we take it easy and keep it sleazy.